Hello, welcome to Manx Newscast. I'm Christian Jones. Now, nurses across the island are due to go on strike starting from tomorrow, which forms part of their dispute over pay and conditions. Members of the Royal College of Nursing will walk out for 12 hours, which will disrupt numerous services. The health body is cancelling some appointments at various departments, while others will see a Christmas Day-style schedule in place. Manx Care's Executive Director of Nursing is Paul Moore, who describes himself as an innovative and impactful health service leader who has a high passion for overcoming intractable problems. He joins us today. Good afternoon, Paul.
Good afternoon, Christian.
Well, a high passion for overcoming intractable problems. From the outside, that statement alone might seem like you're in your element right now.
Yes, to some extent, this is a big problem and it is intractable. It is an issue we do need to resolve. Yes, I agree with that.
So let's go back to the beginning of your career. You attended Stockport, Tameside and Glossop School of Nursing, where you were educated and became a qualified registered general nurse. I mean, what was the decision to go into nursing? Where did that come from?
From my point of view, I wanted to be a fighter pilot for the Royal Air Force, but had no realistic prospect of becoming a fighter pilot. And the next best thing for me was to become an emergency nurse and work in ED. That was a tremendous ambition that I had, and spent time as a volunteer actually before I came into nursing in the emergency department in Stockport, where I can remember vividly the things I saw then and remember them now as having a big impact on my decision to go into emergency care. And to this day still have a fantastic passion for the thrill of dealing with emergencies and people when they're most vulnerable. It's very rewarding, and so I don't regret the decision at all.
So from going from wanting to be a fighter pilot to nursing, they're obviously quite different things, but I suppose the fundamental core of that is you wanted to be in public service, whether you were fighting to protect people or fighting to save people.
And in addition to that, the excitement that goes with dealing with the crisis, the drama, the emergency. It's a tremendous thrill. If you're one of those people that has that bug, you can't get rid of it.
Moving from core frontline nursing to more managerial positions, that happened quite quickly for you. How much time did you actually spend solely being a nurse before moving up in the ranks?
It was about 10 years in clinical care before I became a nursing tutor and then moved up into management positions. So it was about a decade in ED.
And was that a conscious decision that you took, that you wanted to be in the driving seat, making decisions as the long-term goal?
To be honest, I don't think it was. I think as with many things in life, people spot your talent and they encourage you to go down a certain path. I think I'd have been quite happy staying as an emergency nurse practitioner and might well have gone on to be an advanced practitioner or maybe a consultant nurse in ED had I stayed there. But my senior leaders picked me out and asked me to do certain projects which had a cascade effect of leading to working at the leading edge of clinical governance and then in risk management and quality improvement, which I've enjoyed equally well as well.
So people listening to this might say, well, you were a nurse, but that was a long time ago, almost 20 years ago or so, and you're now in an executive role in a nice office. How much can he actually appreciate what being a nurse is like? But to this day, you do actually still carry out nursing shifts.
Yeah, I do. And, I would take offence at anyone who says I was a nurse, because I'm still a nurse. I'm a registrant. I have to abide by the code of practice. And, I take a great interest in all aspects of nursing. So I see it as an important part of my job to understand what is really going on, how care is delivered, what the standards are like, so that I can challenge that, I can improve it, I can support it where it's needed. And there are times when I am needed to go on the front line. Thankfully, it's not as often as people might think, but when required, I will put a uniform on and I will go and deliver care to people within the scope of my practice, yes.
And why do you generally have to do that?
Occasionally it's because we're short of people and care is not safe otherwise. So, I can't easily stand by and let unsafe care continue without doing everything I can to help.
And I suppose that's one of the reasons why nurses are going on strike is staffing levels. Do you think nurses are right to be demanding changes to their pay and conditions?
I think I can understand that for a lot of my nursing colleagues, for a very long time now, they've had low pay rises that have not kept up with inflation and not kept up with the cost of living, and their standards have been steadily eroded over a considerable period of time. And so I understand that gap somehow needs to be bridged. And yes, I do support my colleagues campaigning for a better pay deal, fairer pay deal, one that reflects and recognises the contribution that they make to the delivery of healthcare on the Isle of Man. I do support that. I'm not as supportive of some of the ways in which we're protesting because it has an impact on direct patient care. But and on that, I'm deeply conflicted as a nurse. I want the best for my colleagues. I want the fairest pay deal for my colleagues. But I also find it very difficult to accept that to achieve that, we have to put people in danger in order to get the message heard. On that, I think I might have a difference of opinion with some of my colleagues.
And do you genuinely believe that the patients are in danger? I mean, I know that Manx Care is closing multiple departments and we're seeing Christmas Day style schedules. But do you think that still is even putting patients at risk?
Yes, without a shadow of a doubt, strikes are impactful. Operations are being cancelled, appointments are being cancelled. There's the risk that people who are vulnerable might not get supervised. Vital sign measurements might not be recorded on time, and we might not therefore recognise someone who's getting poorly. Critical medicines might be delayed or even missed. This isn't just numbers on a post-strike incident evaluation form, Christian. These are people in pain, in discomfort, in distress, and in poor health. These are people we all know and we all care about on our small island. And these impacts can lead to serious harms. And delaying care for anybody leads to clinical deterioration, something we call deconditioning, and further pain and further suffering, which inevitably leads to a poorer outcome. And no one deserves this.
How much has nursing changed over the years? I mean, when the RCN says nurses fear and dread staffing levels now, I mean, is that fair analysis, and has it always been this way?
I think there's a couple of things that I would say in response to that question. I think nursing has changed hugely since when I started. When I started in nursing, we had fewer nurses, but we took greater risks, and the demands placed upon us in terms of the clinical roles were not the same as they are now. As in my kind of career, I've witnessed nursing become much more advanced. And the technical skills that people will apply, the responsibility that goes with it, the accountability that goes with discharge planning and providing care, and care planning and being responsible for that, is on a very different level to what it was in 1992 when I began my professional career. And so we have to recognise and reflect that. And those demands that are being placed on nurses, without the right numbers of staff, they can be overwhelming. Let's not forget that nurses are the glue that holds everything together. And we start to destabilise that, then we destabilise the whole thing. It's like a house of cards. It starts to tumble very, very quickly. And that's largely because we've become incredibly dependent on the contribution of nursing for delivering healthcare, and rightly so. We've got skilled, expert practitioners in the field who can do that really, really well. But without them, we don't have an NHS.
And if you were a Manx Care nurse going into work right now, do you think you would have similar or the same grievances as those that are being expressed through the RCN?
I don't know if I can answer that question helpfully, but if I was starting off nursing today on the Isle of Man, I wouldn't have the benefit of the knowledge that I have now as an exec director of nursing. So what I would see is I'd see a very, very busy clinical environment, an awful lot of people needing care, not much time to think, and therefore you've got to be on top of your game all the time. I'd also see huge opportunities for developing your field of expertise that didn't exist when I was there. You're a registered nurse or you were not, but now there's a whole raft of possibilities for people to become advanced practitioners, to become nurse consultants, to become clinical leaders. So the world is huge, and that would motivate me and it would excite me. I'd also see times when it's quiet and we're managing really well, and times when it's very, very busy and we're struggling. And I would be learning as a new trainee how to handle those two differences, because, that's real life. You are going to get busy days, you're going to get quiet days, and learning how to handle both is all part of learning to be a nurse.
And during the last strike, nurses told Manx Radio they were treating patients whilst exhausted and stressed. Do you think that patients should be concerned that the level of care they're receiving is by people who are exhausted?
Yes, I think they should. There's a lot of evidence in the clinical literature that points to a correlation between the numbers of staff on duty and their level of exhaustion and weariness and tiredness. A direct correlation between that and the standard of clinical care. A tired, stressed nurse will be a nurse that perhaps doesn't have the same field of vision, and subtle signs and changes in someone's condition might not get detected by a nurse whose perception is narrowed by stress and workload pressures. So yeah, I think there's a lot of truth in that argument, and the literature backs it up, which is why I think I'd want to say we've been working since I got in Manx Care 2 years ago. We've been working non-stop to address this issue, to stabilise the staffing and build a pipeline for the future, in knowing as I do that turnover is high, and knowing as I do that a big chunk of our workforce will be eligible to retire. We have to make the decisions now, which is why in 2022 I pushed really, really hard for the board and the department to get behind an international recruitment programme, and also to increase the domestic production of trainees. Both of those decisions were extremely difficult things for me to engineer, but we got them over the line, we got the funding, we implemented the changes, and we stabilised the workforce for a period of time. And we need to continue to do that. We have to do that for the very reason that you say, that we've got to have people on duty that are not tired, not stressed, and very able to do their jobs to the best of their ability.
You moved to the Isle of Man and joined Manx Care when it was being established, like you mentioned, 2 years ago. When you were moving over here, do you think that you fully appreciated then what you were getting yourself into?
No. Is the short answer to that question, no. I did as much due diligence as I could, but at the time, if you remember, it was COVID and the borders were shut. There was no way I could come over and take a look. But having come here and experienced the challenge, that made me want to do it. It made me even more so want to do it, because I want to raise the standard of clinical care. I want to boost the nursing voice. I want to improve outcomes for people who use our services, and those are things which they're needed on the Isle of Man. We do need to raise the standard of clinical care. We do need to strengthen the voice of our practitioners and strengthen the clinical voice, and nursing is right at the heart of that. I do want to make it an attractive place for people to want to come and study and learn and gain experience here, and all those things are possible. And by and large, all those things are things that we're making some significant progress on.
And it does appear that the main issues could be resolved with additional money. But Manx Care is saying there is none. Is this just going to be a continuous vicious circle until Treasury can allocate more money, or do you see there being an end to industrial action?
Oh, I got to be honest with you here. We can't go on like this. We have to change this situation. At the moment, we've got a situation where both sides, the Royal College of Nursing and Manx Care, is in deadlock. They are entrenched in their respective offers, from which neither side is neither willing or able to move on. And it's clear to me, if we don't shift the dial now and at this juncture, the only viable option remaining is to move to independent binding arbitration to get this problem resolved and return to looking after people in need again. We've got to do that. I am deeply conflicted by this issue, as I've said. I support my colleagues for a better pay deal, but I cannot stand by silent, knowing that the actions of the Royal College of Nursing and many of my colleagues will manifestly lead to serious harm for people who are in need. And we have to stop that. I am calling on the Royal College of Nursing to cancel their planned strike action on Thursday the 14th. Stop exposing vulnerable people to harm by striking. I'm also calling on Manx Care and the Royal College of Nursing to negotiate. There's still time. Go to binding arbitration so that this can be resolved one way or the other and maintain care for those that are in need. Our priority right now is to care for those in need.
Of course, industrial action isn't exclusive to the island nor the health service. You say that you have a strong commitment to bring out the best in people and create a positive, open, thriving working environment. In an ideal world, what would you do to fix the situation?
I think, in all honesty, we don't live in an ideal world. I think we live in a real world. And there are limitations to what I think I could achieve. What I would like to see is for the Royal College of Nursing and Manx Care to call a halt to the strikes and go to binding arbitration. And if it can be resolved by a small amount of money that can be put on the table to address the issue, then we should do that. Because the consequences of allowing strikes to damage people and harm people who are in need, or make them wait for things that they need to have, the cost of that is much higher, in my opinion. My ability to do that is limited. I'm a member of a board of directors and I have to share the decision that the board take. But I think there is a small opportunity in my mind for calling off the action, going to arbitration, getting a resolution that's binding, and then thinking about the future, what we do to make sure the profession remains attractive, that we continue to focus on safe staffing requirements, that we improve the standard of care, restore the confidence that public have in our nurses and therapists and doctors.
Thank you for making it to the end of the Little Manx Radio newscast. You are obviously someone with exquisite taste. May I politely suggest you might want to subscribe to this and a wide range of Manx Radio podcasts at your favourite podcast provider so our best bits will magically appear on your smartphone. Thank you.